we have a lot of uncertainty about what's going on with avalanche activity, and although we have some certainty as well. And I was just hoping to just chat again tonight and get some thoughts from you all that we could share with everyone else so they could get a sense of what's going on. And well, the thing we talked about this morning, and maybe Trent, you could comment on this really briefly since you wrote the Salt Lake forecast this morning, was we've had this warning out for like a number of days. And I think we had some back and forth discussions about like, do we keep it going?
I'm going to go ahead and share my screen really quickly. Just if you're looking at the left-hand side of my screen, this is an image from Snowbird today. This was done with some explosive work. But I mean, just look at the size of that avalanche. I mean, it's overhead. That thing's 7 to 8 feet deep, super thick, really hard. I mean, that's kind of like, you're not going to survive an avalanche if you're caught like that. And then, if you're in the middle of the screen, this was an avalanche triggered today in Alexander Basin or Mill Creek Canyon area, much shallower. So to me, there's a lot of variability across the terrain. And then the common theme is if you look at our current radar, I mean, I just took this picture, 616, we're getting more snow and more wind. So really, in my mind, it just kind of all adds up. We're seeing avalanches. Avalanches are being triggered. We know we have weak faceted snow out in the mountains, and hey, we're getting more wind and more water or snow. And I don't know. To me, it just seems like it all adds up to dangerous avalanche conditions throughout the mountains.
Craig, you were just saying, just driving, you were encountering similar conditions as Toby, like before you even got out onto the snow. It sounds like.
There we go. Same kind of thing, right? So I always think, and I always talk about in my avalanche classes, I mean, if it's all we can do to get to the trailhead, right? Can you imagine how the snowpack is interpreting that? And that's exactly what I found. So sideways snow, drifting, ground blizzards, you're like in one of those little snow globes. You don't know which way is up. As I start approaching my terrain, it's the same type of thing. I didn't experience any cracking or collapsing or even any avalanching, but I also didn't put myself into any sort of vulnerable positions. I feel at this level, what we should all be doing, you stay in safe terrain, you get all of the beta, you get all the snow data that you need, and then you're able to extrapolate that, put it into all of the pieces of the puzzle, what we're seeing, what we're feeling, what that common denominator of snow structure is. And I think we've all got a pretty good handle on what we're dealing with.
Well, one thing I think is interesting, Trent had a couple images of 2 avalanches, but in general, we haven't seen or heard about like a ton of avalanches happening.
That to me, I'm up here in Logan, that seems to be the missing ingredient. And maybe I had a good look around at the Wellsvilles and stuff in Cache Valley, and there's been fairly limited natural avalanche activity that I could see, including around Tony Grove Lake today. I really just didn't see much evidence of natural activity at all. And I was actually somewhat surprised by lack of that ingredient. I mean, the heavy snowfall, very, very strong winds are red flags themselves. But I'm not seeing other outward signs of instability. So I have to dig. And I did find areas, of course, with loose, weak, sugary snow down near the ground. And I was able to get propagating failures. But they were really hard to initiate, somewhere around between 20 and 25 taps. So hard with my shoulder.
But you're still not trusting the steeper terrain, are you, Toby?
Oh, no way. No, absolutely not. No. Yeah. And actually, for the riding and skiing was actually really pretty good in low angle terrain.
But Brett, you did, I think maybe you suspect you had a pretty good avalanche cycle on the Manti skyline on Christmas Eve, maybe December 24th.
Yeah, so good natural avalanche cycle on Christmas Eve. day. Pretty widespread, large avalanche, 2 to 3 feet deep, hundreds of feet wide. My big question from my forecast today was, what was going on out there since this wind has picked up, and has the range gone through its cycle already? Are we through the worst of it or not? Are there naturals happening from this wind? That was one of my questions. And then the other one regarding the known persistent weak layer down deep in the snowpack. How weak is that? How sensitive is it still? And the field day today answered a lot of those questions. First, we saw a natural avalanche that released within a couple of hours. So got immediate confirmation on that. The winds are no.
Oh,
we lost Brett.
there he goes.
But well, I think it's interesting. Our discussion this morning, I think we were debating whether or not we continue our avalanche warning. And I mean, certainly Brett's seeing a natural avalanche activity. But what was Trent? What was sort of your takeaway from our forecaster talk this morning?
We obviously want to alert the public that there's dangerous avalanche conditions. And so the avalanche warning really allows the Avalanche Center to get that broad message across, the board. We want people heading to Donut Falls to understand that there's overhead hazard. And if a big avalanche comes down, we don't want it to affect them. And so I think, but the bottom line is like, it's really hard to drop, Mark, you've really helped me out in my young career forecasting here in the Salt Lake office. It's like, it's really hard to drop the danger rating when you get continued loading, either by wind or snow. And so, we've issued the avalanche warning on Friday, and literally for the past 96 hours, it hasn't let up. So like, it's not getting less dangerous.
I agree with that stuff. Trent, for sure. And we have conditions that warrant the warning. And I would just like to reemphasize my point that I just get nervous that it gets diluted and is just noise, as time goes on when we have a warning going for so many days. Although I do feel good that we do have a warning going on. The lots of folks up on the skyline going to their cabins, and I'm hoping that warning reached them before they went into the cabins for the week. They're up there through the weekend, and that's really I think our focus is this weekend. What's going to happen when these storms clear and folks are out there getting after it.
We'll be concerned on that first beautiful sunny day when everyone heads to the hills. And it's just interesting. I think there is a lot of uncertainty among all of us about exactly what's going on in the snowpack, how sensitive it is. Are there naturals happening, or when is that exact peak of instability? Seems like it kind of ebbs and flows a little bit with these waves of snow. But
here's part of it, Mark, is that it's not so in your face anymore. Yeah. Like some of the other guys were mentioned, you got to dig now to see the stuff, but it's there. And it's nothing.
And when you say in your face, Brett, I think what you're referring to is you had a day where you had like 30 huge booming collapses while you're out walking around, and that's
yeah. When you
screaming at you,
slopes spider web in front of you, yeah, they're collapsing and things spider webbing, just shattering in front of your eyes. That's in your face, but it's not doing that anymore.
Yeah, and I mean, I could be totally wrong here, but I truly believe we haven't even seen the avalanche cycle we're expecting yet. Meaning, I think our snowpack, our slab is building. It's going to reach some critical point, and you're going to see some big avalanches. I mean, we're not seeing things 500, 800, and 1,000 feet wide just yet. But give it a little bit of time, give it some more wind, give it some more water, and I think you're going to continue to see large avalanches triggered. So I do think that we're being cautious at the Avalanche Center because each and every one of us is treating the mountains as we're forecasting. You know, I stood on a ridge yesterday with 3 forecasters, none of which were willing to even get 2 feet out, you know, off of the bushes side of the ridge, right? We were not willing to even look over the edge of the mountain because we were worried that it could avalanche.
But at the same time, you all got no unstable results in your stability test when you were digging. You didn't get any, I mean, you had no signs other than just your knowledge that things are dangerous.
Well, you can feel it. Dig down and look at that weak layer. It's, you know, it's fist hardness, it's depth hoar, it's striated, it's there. There's a slab on top. I mean, like, I don't know what more we need. I mean, yes, we aren't seeing the avalanche cycle widespread, but we are seeing avalanches remotely triggered. We're seeing avalanches with explosives inside the ski areas. I mean, to me, it all adds up to unstable snow.
From, you know, and maybe there is a pretty big difference in areas or maybe not. But one thing I can say for sure, and this is based on my experience, is that it can get a lot worse here. There can be, like, most of the time in the past when we've had avalanche warnings in the Logan zone, I can back that up by saying there was natural avalanche activity that occurred during that period of time. And during the last 5 days, Logan's been in an avalanche warning, and I haven't seen any natural avalanches at all. And I know people are getting out there in the backcountry, some people. And I think people are being really, really careful, and they're listening to our advice. Because I didn't see any tracks in steep terrain really today.
Yeah. Well, and also I think it's worth noting, with all the stormy weather, we haven't been able to see if there have been avalanches.
I think that's worth noting. And
well, let's try and wrap it up for the sake of brevity. But Craig, I know one thing you're usually pretty good at is just bringing us back to, like, well, here's what I know. There are a lot of unknowns, but, like, let's just return back to the simple things that we know for sure. And I was wondering if you could recap that for us.
So what I know is that we've got a thin margin of error, and we've got a huge margin of catastrophic consequence. When I see all of those things come together, I'm pumping the brakes. I'm making extremely conservative decisions, sticking with low angle terrain, no overhead hazard. And since I'm a user of this product, I also like to have that forecast help reiterate some of my feelings and some of my travel advice as well. So that's the way I'm rolling.
It's not all doom and gloom, though. I think we were talking about this earlier.
No, and
looking ahead, are we all feeling hopeful?
I was gonna say that you know, I actually like the direction that the snowpack is going right now. It's just in the short term, don't mess with it.
Long term, we're hopeful it'll turn around. Is that fair to say? Yeah.
I'm really liking what I'm seeing at low and mid elevations and sunny slopes where there was no old snow, and now there's enough coverage where you can go right down, you can ski these slopes.
Yeah.
And the big change that I've seen is low elevation and mid elevation and sunny slopes are now covered, and there is no old snow there. So we're opening up. We do have some really good options for the next couple of weeks if we can really watch out for those slopes that do have the old snow and stay away from them. We'll be able to find some great terrain to ski or ride.
Hey, Mark, it seems to me like a little bit of patience yields some great reward here, just a little down the pike.
Yeah, I agree. I'm ready for it. Okay, well, thank you for tuning in, and thanks for you guys taking time tonight to share some thoughts. And I hope this is valuable for anyone else who can watch this, and they can gain a little insight. We've peeled back the curtain a little bit to some thoughts we're having, and yeah, thanks.
Well, feel free to